In a quiet, forgotten southern town where the streets were cracked with age, and the porches told stories of better days, lived a young woman named Maya. The paint on the houses had long since faded, children's laughter no longer echoed in the yards, and most of the townsfolk carried tired eyes from years of hard living. Life had not been kind to Maya. She worked long hours at a small diner on the edge of town, often taking double shifts just to afford the modest rent of her tiny one-room apartment. Her pantry was often bare, and many nights she went to bed hungry, surviving only on the thought that tomorrow might somehow be better. Yet even with her struggles, her heart was bigger than her troubles. Every evening after work, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with a golden-orange glow, Maya would walk down the familiar road past Maple Street. There, in a sagging, weather-beaten house with a crooked porch, lived Mr. Harlan. The elderly man had once been known as a devoted father, a hard-working soul who built furniture with his own hands. But time had stolen his strength. His shoulders, once broad and steady, now bent under the weight of loneliness. His clothes were threadbare, his hands rough and cracked, and his once bright eyes had grown tired and sad. The neighbors had all but abandoned him. Many whispered as they passed his home, mocking his fall from grace, or shaking their heads with pity. But none stopped. None cared enough to ask if he was hungry, if he was cold, or if he needed help. They spoke about him as if he were already gone. One particular evening, Maya saw something that pierced her heart. Mr. Harlan was in his garden, searching the weeds with trembling hands, hoping to find a scrap of food among the dying plants. His face carried the weight of shame and desperation. Maya froze, her chest tight with sorrow. Though she herself had little, she could not ignore what she had seen. That night, after her shift, she carefully packed a small meal into a plastic bag. Some bread from the diner, a handful of vegetables she had saved, and even the last apple from her kitchen. With determination, she walked to his porch. At first, Mr. Harlan refused. His pride was still alive, though his body was frail. "I can't take this from you," he said softly, his voice breaking. But Maya's smile was warm and her words simple. Neighbors take care of each other. Her kindness was undeniable, and finally, his resistance gave way. From that day forward, Maya became his lifeline. Every evening she brought food, sometimes a full meal, sometimes just scraps, but always with love. She stayed to talk, asking him about his past, listening to his stories of raising a son, of years spent working hard to give that child a better life. His voice would break when he spoke of how the boy had grown up and left, never to return. Maya never judged, never asked questions that would deepen his pain. She simply listened, filling his empty house with compassion. As the weeks passed, a bond grew between them. He began to wait for her footsteps on the gravel path each evening, and she, despite her exhaustion, looked forward to his smile, the way his eyes brightened when he saw her. In giving him food, she had unknowingly given him back his dignity. But the town was not kind. People whispered cruel things. Some said Maya was wasting her time on a nobody. Others accused her of pretending to be kind for attention. A few even suggested she was foolish, throwing away her own meals when she could barely afford to eat. Yet Maya never let the voices touch her. She believed in something greater than gossip. She believed in humanity. Then, one hot summer afternoon, everything changed. Maya had just finished her shift and walked up to Mr. Harlan's porch with a bag of fresh bread and fruit. The old man smiled, his hands shaking slightly as he reached for her gift. But as she handed him the bag, the hum of an expensive car grew louder. A sleek black vehicle pulled up at the end of the street, its polished surface gleaming under the sun. The car's door opened, and out stepped a tall man in a tailored suit, his shoes shining against the dusty road. He stood still, adjusting his tie, and for a long moment simply watched the scene before him. His frail father clutching a bag of food, smiling gratefully at a young woman dressed in a worn diner uniform. The man was Richard Harlan, Mr. Harlan's son, the same boy who had once been the center of his father's world, now a billionaire whose name echoed in boardrooms and on magazine covers across the country. He had everything: mansions, cars, influence, wealth beyond imagination. But standing there, he felt the crushing weight of everything he had lost. For years he had buried himself in work, in ambition, in the pursuit of fortune, and in doing so, had abandoned the man who had given him everything. His father looked up, and for the first time in decades, their eyes met. Tears welled up in the old man's eyes. His lips trembled as he whispered, "Son." Richard's throat tightened. Guilt rushed over him like a flood. He had missed years. Birthdays, holidays, the quiet moments that make life real. And yet, here was this stranger, this young woman who had nothing, giving his father more love than he had ever given. Richard's voice cracked as he finally spoke. "Dad." It was soft, almost broken. Maya stepped back quietly, sensing the weight of the moment. Richard turned to her, his eyes filled with both gratitude and shame. "You've taken care of him when I wasn't there. You gave him love when I gave him nothing. I can never repay you." The reunion between father and son was raw, emotional, and life-changing. Richard vowed to make things right, to never again leave his father lonely or hungry. From that day on, Mr. Harlan's final years were filled with comfort, dignity, and the company of the son he had always longed for. And as for Maya, her life transformed in ways she had never dreamed. Richard, moved by her selflessness, offered her opportunities she had never thought possible: education, financial stability, and security. She did not ask for any of it, but kindness has a way of multiplying. The whispers in town changed, too. No longer did people mock her. Instead, they spoke her story with awe, retelling how the poor young woman fed her lonely neighbor every day, not knowing that his son was a billionaire. She became an inspiration, proof that compassion could change not just one life, but many. For Maya, it was never about recognition or reward. It was about doing the right thing when no one else would. And in the end, that choice made her richer in spirit than any billionaire could ever be.